at last. We're on Death Aura. In the bottom right hand corner, our blue Protoss, sorry, is spawning. Playing for Raise Your Edge Gaming. And from Korea, this is ZEST.
Alright, and here, spawning at the top left corner of the map, he's the red Zerg player from Alpha X. He is RAGNAKROK.
"27 minutes of waiting, and I still managed to mess up our first introduction." Wow. That must be a record. Alright, ZEST being extremely obnoxious with this bro, delaying not only the natural, but also managing to find a way to make Ragnarok drop even his second base at the third quite a little bit late. Which is an achievement, of course, for the Protoss, but this has become quite common, so
yeah,
not really. You shouldn't really set Ragnarok too far behind for a lot of time.
We've seen ZEST, of course, do this a lot against Zerg, so no surprise here. I expect that he will do this in this series, throughout the series, and potentially in the next series if he does face against Rogue.
Yeah. It's definitely a good way to approach the first minute of the game. So I was actually extremely surprised to not see this every single game for the past year. So I'm kind of glad it is back, because it's just overall a very good way to approach a series versus a third player.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of natural blocking, even in the PvT matchups, where some Terrans are, specifically Beyond, mostly just sending their SCV across the map early on and just blocking that Nexus.
Alright, we see a Stargate opener from ZEST. No big surprise here, this is still Death Aura. You're still gonna get a lot of leverage out of that Stargate opener. It's the safest way to play, and it's probably the most efficient way to play on this map. But it will all make more sense once we see the follow-up of ZEST. This doesn't mean it's gonna go for the free Stargate yet, but it's definitely a good way to start. Like, it doesn't cut it off of his choices.
Alright, so once the game goes on, I wonder if ZEST is still gonna do that 3 Stargate build, or is he gonna save it in the finals, potentially against Rogue?
He's gonna start it off with a Void Ray. So everything is pointing towards that direction. But we still have to see how Ragnarok decides to play this. He is one of those players who like to lane rush you a lot. He's making 8 drones right now, so I don't think he's gonna go for anything aggressive. But you kind of have to be wary around him, because he is the player who will Zergling rush you, and he is the player who can actually get some very quick and easy wins with that build. Goodbye, Ulrich.
Alright,
that's a nice supply block, by the way. Ragnarok has been supply block for quite a while.
Yeah. We do see a Oracle follow-up by ZEST, which is no surprise. He has shown him following up with the Oracle. And but this time around, pretty early third, as you said.
Yeah, quite early third.
So we might just see both players just settle into the mid game, but first Void Ray will be making his way into the main base.
Yeah, while the Oracle is trying to eat the third, the Void Ray will get 1 drone, and that's a stasis ward, not gonna do much. And we see the double Stargate follow-up is gonna be the free Stargate build that ZEST has been liking so much lately, with that mass Void Ray style. And on this very early third base, this will very much hurt Ragnarok if he doesn't do something about it.
Yeah, I mean, I guess if it ain't broke, don't fix it. ZEST has been just sticking with this build, and I mean, can't blame him. It's been working out pretty well for him. So we'll see if he can, of course, once again get the win with the same build order.
Evo Chamber and Lair for Ragnarok, everything is pointing towards some kind of Hydra play. Yeah, we have a ranged attack, of course. And with 3 Void Rays coming at a time, it looks like Ragnarok has been making his own works. Overload Speed will actually catch the 2 Stargates being made by ZEST. So with the Hydra Den coming up right now, Ragnarok will probably try to set up some kind of timing attack, because I think that's the best possible way to handle with all the Oracle survives.
Ooh, just barely, yeah. Now we did see last week that Rogue had certain responses towards his build. Oh, I remember one game he went for the Spire, which didn't work out really well for him. I mean, considering that ZEST already had kind of like the semi-counter to it with the 3 Stargate. He did go for Hydralisk, I think, one game, which worked out pretty nicely. But then there was also a game, I believe, where he did go Hydralisk and then ZEST transitioned into an early High Templars with Storm. And then that backfired for Rogue. And then, of course, we did see actually one game that Rogue went for the Swarm Host response, which was odd. Didn't work out for him. So we'll see if Ragnarok, with his early 4th, is going to go ahead and get the get a different response and get a different advantage over this, and finally get a counter to this, because I still don't know the exact straight out counter to this build.
I really like the way in which Rogue tried to put a lot of pressure, sending Hydras through the map, and kind of placing them between the natural and the third and dealing damage there, buying a lot of time, getting even more tech, even more upgrades. But this time it looks like ZEST has already adapted. He's now sending a lot of Void Rays through the map, trying to deal damage, getting a Spore Color, getting a couple overloads, and just heading back. All of this is just buying in time to get Storm, to get Charge, to get all these late game upgrades, and even transition maybe into a Fleet Beacon play. Oh, the spawning pool, it's so exposed. Those Hydras really need to sit back into the main to deal with that. As I was saying, ZEST is already adapting a lot his way of playing, and that 3rd base rush really pointed towards him trying to get as much tech as earlier as possible. And I have to say, I like this a lot. It really prevents that kind of answer I was talking about before, the one in which Rogue tried to pressure ZEST by sending Hydras through the map quite early on, so those Void Rays couldn't really get to the critical mass number. But this time, this will not work. Oh, Storm is gonna be delayed by quite a bit. This will be a good time to attack if Storm wasn't so close to being done, and Bailey speed still a little bit too far. Well, it's gonna be done in a second, but I don't think he will hurt his opponent too much. That's still gonna be quite a lot of Storms.
Yeah, he's gonna buy himself enough time, especially with these Stasis Ward and the defenses set up with these cannons and shield battery. Yep, Storm does finally finish, and I don't see this actually breaking a ZEST. Although there are still a lot of Banelings and Hydralisks, so we'll see how this engagement goes.
Yeah, this drop into the main of Ragnarok will deal some damage. Meanwhile, the Storm gets on top of so many Banelings. These Banelings are not getting anywhere close to there. The choke point is too strong, and that's a huge Stasis Ward catching so many units. Ragnarok doesn't really hurt his opponent too much, but this Zealot run by into the main is already causing a havoc in the base of Ragnarok. Finally, some Banelings catch up with these Zealots. But it's still going to be quite some damage. A couple Queens go down. And in the end, it looks like a very solid timing from ZEST. Well, timing run by from ZEST. The War Prism is gonna go down, but just taking a quick look at the units lost stat, I see 6 Queens being killed throughout the game from ZEST. And I cannot really stress this enough. Losing Queens for a Zerg hurts almost as much as losing an hatchery.
What I'm worried about, though, for Ragnarok is that he's been on 4 bases for quite some time, but ZEST is on 4 bases himself. He's got that pretty much saturated, and I would love to see Ragnarok throw down both a 5th and 6th base just to at least catch back up. He does throw down his 5th base, but man, look at the creep spread from the Zerg. It is not that impressive.
No, not at all. I really like him dropping that infestation pit right now. I think it's quite a little bit too late, to be honest. But he was probably thinking he was about to deal more damage with his attack than he actually did. ZEST has become so good at rushing his stack with his build that it's really looking quite unbeatable. He already has carriers. He's gonna have plasma shield upgrades, which is very odd, but he's still gonna work out a long way, as well as +1 air attack. So Revelation being dropped, that's so many Banelings, but I don't think there are enough Hydras. The Storm will gonna whiff. But oh, look at these many Banelings dropping down on so many High Templars. That Storm killed at least 20 Banelings, and there is no anti-air right now for Ragnarok. A complete misread of what is going on from the Zerg player, prompting into making so many Banelings, but not having any anti-air. ZEST gets an easy win in game number 1, and Ragnarok really needs to step up his game to face that kind of build. This was not the answer.
Yeah, I mean, still no answer, no strong answer, convincing answer for that build, and ZEST is just abusing it. And it's been the history of ZEST bringing out these unique, builds, changing the meta of Protoss, and forcing Zergs to adapt to it, to figure it out, how to break it. We seen it last year with ZEST and that 4-gate Adept build, right? Back then, no Protoss was really doing that on a consistent basis. Then ZEST did it, and then all the Protoss did it and followed suit. And then of course Zerg did adapt eventually, and then now we are once again a new build coming out of ZEST, making it pretty attractive for Protosses out there.
It's really been working wonders as of far. Like, I see so many answers, so little answers to this that it's quite mind-numbing. I'm still very indecisive about how a Zerg player can possibly deal with this, but I'm sure Ragnarok will pull up something a little bit better than he did in the first game. But let's start off with the introductions here on Lightshade, which is going to be our second set for the first series of the day. Here in the top left-hand corner, the blue Protoss player is spawning, leading the series 1-0, looking unbeatable with his straight new free target play, playing for Raise Your Edge Gaming. This is ZEST.
And spawning here at the bottom right, we have the red Zerg player from Team of Alpha X, hailing from Korea. Give it up for Ragnarok. Oh, we do see a little bit of interesting play coming out of ZEST. Now this time around, no early probe blocking. But then even more interesting is that he went for the gas first before the gateway. What do you think this is about?
This is so odd from both players. Ragnarok dropped an insanely early first archery. So, oh, well. So, let me get this straight. Both openers look a lot like a rush. I'm expecting either a Zergling rush or a tech rush into the lair, or maybe the Roach Warren tech. And on the side of ZEST, I really cannot make up my mind. Getting the gas so early. Huh.
Yeah,
Will this be some kind of like early +1 air attack timing? Something like that?
It's possible. I mean, there's a lot of varieties that Protoss can do right after that cybernetic core is done. We should see the tech of choice pretty soon. We do see a Adept coming, as well as Warp Gate. Oh, cancels the Warp Gate research.
Just under the careful eyes of these Overlord,
Okay.
Instead of Warp Gate, just to drop the Stargate a little bit earlier. So yeah, that was all about dropping an even earlier Stargate than usual. I don't know if he did that because the map is very short, or he did that because he wants to have an early Oracle, thinking that his opponent will go into a Zergling Rush, which is looking unlikely out of Ragnarok right now. Very unlikely. It's a Void Ray start, not an Oracle.
It might be an Oracle follow-up, although we might again see that 3 Stargate build once again.
It's totally possible. I think my read before was wrong. I just think right now that this was some kind of anti-aggro maneuver from both players, like Ragnarok dropping an early natural to get everything set up a little bit quicker without the probe actually disrupting him, and ZEST getting a Void Ray as early as possible to maybe have an easier transition, being more safe thanks to the Void Ray. But I don't think we're gonna see any triple Stargate here. We see Twilight Council and Green Base.
Oh man, I think this is so brilliant from ZEST. He's making it seem like it's the exact same build as last game with the 3 Stargate build, but he's changed it up. It's not going to be a 3 Stargate. It's going to be an Adept Glaive attack follow-up.
Let's go back to being adapted. It looks like Ragnarok is gonna have a Lair and the Roach Warren incoming. Roach Warren is gonna help a ton against this. The Lair, while still not being the best possible answer, it's still a good follow-up since this is gonna hit a little bit later compared to the usual build from ZEST, and ZEST doesn't have a Robo. So no way actually making Adepts just out of the base of his opponent. There is no proxy pylon as well. So everything ZEST sends out is going to be everything he will work with. That's still a ton of Adepts though.
Yeah. Now this is actually one of the maps that is really short. So I do like the skipping of the Robo, the War Prism. You can pretty much, you know, travel across the land, searching far and wide. With these Adepts pretty soon across the map. And here we go. Looks like the first Adept Shade. Will he finish?
He won't, but there is so little Zerglings out right now. Ragnarok is making them just right now. He's just making those units to counter those Adepts, but the numbers are rising. More Adepts are showing up through the map, and that's a Shade into the main to deal with these Zerglings. Gonna die one after the other. They're not clumped up together. They cannot get us around, and that's already a ton of dead Zerglings. Some drones are already falling. The Queens cannot get anywhere close to that. The Void Ray was actually killed by the Queens, but these Adepts are causing a ruckus everywhere else. It's a GG, and ZEST once again just being too damn clever to be dealt with. It's a 2-0 lead. It's a match point in this first series, and this guy is just looking insane as of lately.
Yeah, for sure. Excuse me. Yeah, that build, I just absolutely love it because it's kind of shaded as the same build, but it deviates to a entirely different build. And it kind of keeps Ragnarok guessing, you know, throughout the series. Like, is it going to be that 3 Stargate build? Is it going to be a Glaive, Adept, a follow-up transition? Is it going to be even, maybe, I don't know, maybe a Dark Shrine next time? Who knows? ZEST just has so many builds under his sleeves that he can bring out.
And the things that makes it so strong is that the answers to the Glaive Adept timing and to the Void Ray mass rush, it's probably like the polar opposites. On one side, we have getting a Roach Warren, getting defensive structures, and getting a defensive critical mass of units, like 18 or so Zerglings already at the ready with 8 Roaches in a production tab. That's how you deal with the Adept timing. Against the Void Ray rush, you gotta rush your tech. So it's completely opposite, and that's the reason why I'm calling this. In the future months, probably the way to deal with this will be some kind of early overload speed upgrade to just get that scouting a little bit quicker, because scouting is getting way more important as of late in this match.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's go ahead and introduce our lovely players for potentially the last time.
In the bottom right-hand corner of Romanticide, first set for the first series is the leading player, the Blue Protoss. At match point, he needs one more to get into the finals. Playing for Raise Your Edge Gaming, it is ZEST.
And spawning here at the top left corner of the map. His back is against the wall. He's going to have to win 3 straight in order to move on to the finals. Can he do it? From Alpha X, it is RAGNAKROK.
Once again, ZEST locking down the natural with his filthy probe. And he's also so like proactive with the probe, trying to cancel mining from the drones. Like, it is a minor skill. It really doesn't make too much of a difference. But seeing Protoss players do this is so good. It's always a treat for eyes.
Now, this map, of course, it is a bit trickier in terms of its layout. I in general, I think it's best if you go for more like a 3-base attack or a 2-base timing of some sort, because I feel like this map on the fourth base is a bit harder to get. You could get the one in the 12 or 6 o'clock position, but it's kind of the ramp is kind of small, so force fields are pretty good, and also there's a ledge on the high ground right below it, and then there's the one, like, I guess near the second base, but that one is like pretty wide open, and there's also a little rock there, and then there's one that not a lot of people go for, but if they can mine out the mineral patch, block or a mineral wall, and get that other one. But that one is also pretty awkward, as it's got another mineral wall and rock there, so it's just a weird map to get a 4th base. I expect, or I hope at least, one of them goes for more of a timing attack off of 2 or 3 bases.
Yeah, I want to stress a little bit forward what you were saying about this very awkward 4th base that you can get. Because this is one of those maps in which positioning is uber important, because it's very wide. Bases are in very far away positions, very hot. And there is some places of the map which are very wide open, and some others which are very tight choke points. So positioning, of course, is going to be more important on this map than on many others. And this is the reason why I think the most popular thing will be actually mining out this mineral wall and getting this other base with the rich Vespene geyser, for 2 reasons. One being it's easier to control the ramps, and the other being it's on high ground, so you establish a 4 base income, all of it being on the high ground, which can always be very important.
Yeah. All right. Once again, going for that 3rd from ZEST. Oracle follow up as well. So it's very much looking like once again going back to that 3 Stargate play. Now let's see if RAGNAKROK has a better answer to this compared to the first game.
It looks like he's going back into the Hydra style. Oh, maybe not. That's a melee attack. He's probably going for the timing you were talking about.
Possibly, yeah.
You see Void Ray and Oracle prowling about, trying to find some damage. This is going to be a stasis ward coming from the Oracle. Oh, here it comes. Not gonna hit too much, only 1 drone. Get trapped. While the Void Ray is gonna get a couple kills being overloaded. And it's still gonna work a little bit in his favor. But we see Roach Warren, still no lair. So this is definitely going to be some kind of timing from Ragnarok. He's not getting a fourth. He's not getting a lair. He's not getting any tech. Okay, he's getting a lair right now. 5 minutes. Well, he's not even late. But I'm still thinking he's gonna get some tech. The Void Ray survives. Ooh, that was close. ZEST on the other hand, triple target play. Here on Romanticide, I feel like air units are even stronger. So, yeah, I gotta give the edge to ZEST. He's looking more prepared for the series overall.
Yeah, I also had to give the edge only because most likely that layer is going to be a bit later than I would like. I think if because I haven't seen a Zerg player actually go for a fast layer, get a Nidus Worm, and then just go for a big Queen Roach, maybe some Lings as well, attack before the Void Ray numbers get out of control. I would love to see a Zerg try that. I think you need to punish the Protoss for going for this build. He's not going to have a lot of ground units from this, so if you can you know, transfer some drones into that Nidus Worm and throw some Spore Claws while the Queen buys some time, I think that can actually shut down the third base of the Protoss. Or maybe even if you can get away from Nidusing in the main base, that will probably shut down the main base as well.
ZEST is already getting far too close to critical mass for Ragnarok to be able to clump a huge number of Hydras soon enough to start dealing some damage. So Ragnarok will be on the defensive for quite a while. He has this Roach Warren, which he's probably never going to use at this stage. And I just don't see him doing much against this Void Rays. Here comes a death of a Queen very early. A couple of Hydras are already spawning, kind of shooing these Void Rays away. But it won't be enough. The Templar Archives is a little bit later than ZEST has accustomed us to. We see a very early Hive though, and a very early Lurker then as well. Probably as early as you can get those, which is interesting.
Yeah,
Vipers and Lurkers might be a good way to deal with this.
Yeah, if you can get the Vipers to do some parasitic bombs on the Void Rays, get some abducts on those Void Rays as well into the Hydralisk. And then also, you know, mixing in some Lurkers to help defend against the Storm Tech that ZEST is going for. That might potentially work out pretty well.
Yeah, that has been looking more interesting than I was first thinking about. I think Ragnarok kind of realized this along the way. He wasn't really looking to go for this. He went for melee attack. Let's not forget he went for melee attack. And then he went for a Roach Warren. He never used this far. So he's changed of pace. Of course, getting some Zerglings to try and deal with the first couple storms. And maybe deal some damage once Adrenal Glands kicks in. But this style, as soon as a couple Vipers are out, is looking quite crispy. Flip Beacon is on the way though. That is scary.
Definitely scary.
11 Lurkers. That's a lot of Lurkers. Still no Vipers. He kind of needs the economy to do that.
Yeah, he's just establishing his fifth base there. These are a charge lot run by. Does get caught out in the middle, unfortunately for ZEST. But you know,
he's still gonna win that fight.
Yeah, that's a lot of charge lots. So
yeah, ZEST has basically the counter for every single unit. His army is so strong because he's a jack of all trades, right? While really being a master of none. But these amount of Lurkers are going to be so hard to deal with. Even with 2 Immortals, I don't see a lot of ways to kill those, because the Void Rays cannot get too close. Hydras are still dealing a lot of damage. Lurkers are getting closer and closer. Those Hydras cannot be lost for nothing though. You can be very aggressive with the Lurkers. Not really with the Hydras. Void Rays get close to the Hydras, but the Hydras are fighting back. Getting a Void Ray basically instantly. Lurkers not far enough to deal with the High Templars, but still these Storms are not dealing enough. Lurkers on the high ground as well to stop these High Templars for doing anything, but that's still too many Void Rays Here comes the charge lots run by, and he's still dealing some damage. Queens are falling, Hydras are falling, drones are falling as well. And these zealots are spreading different bases. This is gonna be a full retreat from Ragnarok, who's been losing a lot of time to deal with this. That was a very good window of timing that he actually lost. Now the carriers are out, and there is still no Vipers.
Yeah, no Vipers means you can't pull in those carriers. They're protected by the High Templars and the Void Rays as well. So it's going to get really hard for Ragnarok during the engagement to get on top of the carriers.
Yeah, and those upgrades coming from ZEST can really make such a huge difference with a Dark Shrine as well. Ragnarok needs to pull down some defensive structures. He has a ton of Spine Crawlers here in the top right. He's gonna be dealing with these Zealot run by, just a couple lurkers. But in the meanwhile, ZEST, all he's doing is buying time. This huge Zerg army is still gonna hit. He's going straight for the natural. Not a good place to hit, of course. The army is well placed, and that's so many carriers. Oh, 3 more are coming. 6 already out. Ragnarok desperately needs some spellcasters right now. Double Spire and +3 missile attack. Of course, is gonna help a ton. But I still want to see some Vipers out.
He's going to throw down 2 Spire. So I'm expecting that Ragnarok is going to add some Corruptors into his composition. He's going to need something because that air fleet of the Protoss is getting mighty large and scary as well. So definitely need as much anti-air as possible.
Yeah, +2 interceptors hit like a truck. They can kill Hydra so fast they cannot even realize what is happening without some spellcasters to help pin the number of carriers that are out. ZEST is approaching maxed out stage. There is a ton of Spore Crawlers out, but they're still not done yet. These Hydras are trying to deal as best as they can against these interceptors, but there's so many of them. Carriers are getting even too much ahead of themselves, but still winning this fight. Interceptors are falling down. ZEST will back off for the time being, but he killed, I think it was at least 8 Spore Crawlers. That's 8 more drones that need to be used. Right now, Ragnarok is ditching those drones to get maybe Corruptors or I don't know what. Interceptors are falling again. These Hydras are really putting up a ton of a fight. And finally, we see those 5 Vipers getting out of those larvae. And those are going to be so important for Ragnarok in the few upcoming fights.
Yeah, with the Spore Crawler wall that he's kind of setting up right now, he's doing that slow push that we've seen from Zergs all the time. Usually they add in some Broodlords as well, but this time around, just going to stick with the Hydralisks and Lurkers and try to yoink those air units into the spores. But you know what? ZEST is like, I'm just going to go ahead and circumvent that and go to the right side here where there is absolutely no defense, no anti-air defense. He's going to have to move and repositions those Spore Crawlers to the right side. Oh,
we have a pause here. The hardest thing of this is that Ragnarok didn't mine out the mineral walls. So he's going to be having to work a huge way to deal with the army of ZEST, and he can be blocked by just those mineral walls. He needs to mine those down.
Yeah. Ragnarok needs basically to spread those creeps so that his Hydralisk can walk right under the Void Rays and carriers once the High Templars are gone fast enough, and also at least kind of remove all the barriers with that mineral wall right there, as well as the rocks, of course.
You can see those Hydras having to walk such a huge distance. Luckily there are some Spore Crawlers over here, but ZEST is gonna dive on top of that. That's a lot of Archon Steel getting a lot of damage. These Hydras are doing their best. Storm is not gonna hit too many of those Hydras, and this is gonna be a huge fight. Vipers are coming with full energy, and they can start yonking those carriers. Here comes the parasitic bombs on top of all of these air units that are getting so much damage dealt on. The Vipers are dealing so much damage, but the Hydras are falling one after the other. The Interceptors are gonna die. All of them are down. The Void Rays, only 3 of them are surviving. This Spore Crawler is still making wonders, but that's so many zealots being suicided into the lurkers. This fight has been going on in such a huge advantage for Ragnarok. He's been making 26 more Hydras. Those Vipers are gathering even more energy, and this looks like a huge victory for Ragnarok in this fight. The battle is won, but the war still goes on. 3 more carriers on the way for ZEST. He's been making so many interceptors in this whole time. More High Templars and +3/+3 for his air units.
Yeah, that trade definitely was a bit more efficient there for Ragnarok. But the thing is that ZEST did save all his carriers, and those are the most expensive units for him. So he still has that, you know, scary army, air army fleet, although not quite enough yet to deal with this massive Hydralisk force.
Yeah, Ragnarok denying the 4th base out of ZEST. Getting kills on the bases is gonna be so important. There's a recall on the 3rd base, but the army of Ragnarok is already well placed. That's so many carriers there. Parasitic Bomb goes on top of all of them. He's gonna deal so much damage. Those carriers need to go back. There's still a couple of ducks that can be dealing so much damage. The storms are gonna be useful here, of course. One of them is gonna hit a couple Hydras. Hydras are still too far ahead of the lurkers, and they need to back off. In the end, it's gonna be a little bit of a victory from ZEST over here, especially with a Zealot run by in the top right, dealing quite some damage. But all this did is been buying Ragnarok time to get +2 and +2 air upgrades in the making, and 14 Corruptors are on the way.
Yeah, I would love to see ZEST kind of re-add in those Void Rays, or at least some Archons to help defend those carriers against those Corruptors. Because with those Vipers, those carriers are gonna be very susceptible unless they have some way of dealing with the carriers, or the Corruptors rather.
This still looks like a slow bleeding from ZEST. He's now on 3 bases, losing both the 4th and the 5th base. His economy is really struggling to keep up right now. His army is still very strong, but he cannot really be producing too much stuff at a time. You can see him making only 1 Tempest at a time, but he's still buying time. As far as Ragnarok goes, as Ragnarok wants, this should be the perfect window to attack, having his +2/+2 kick in, and if he wins this battle, the war is over. He's definitely going to win the game. ZEST is maxed out again. He's getting that 4th base back. Actually, he has been getting that back. And Ragnarok needs to do something probably very soon. I mean, he has a lot of economy. He can be building up that bank. But ZEST, even after losing 2 bases, he's still been building up a bank. Oh, that's a lot of Corruptors, and that's a yoink from the Viper. Carrier doesn't fall down, that's not too good. But still, Ragnarok losing so much of his own army, and ZEST not really bleeding anything at all. Ragnarok lost something like 40 of his Corruptors and Hydra supply, and I think all of the Vipers died. Oh, that's huge for ZEST. He can really be starting pushing up on top of those lurkers. The Tempests are dealing so much damage to those. And these Spore Colorers are only dealing with the Interceptors. There's not many Interceptors out, so ZEST cannot really go too crazy. But the Storms are hitting on everything, and Spore Colorers are falling finally. ZEST can push on top of creep. These are Templars getting very brave. Corruptors are trying to dive on top of the carriers. So many Storms going down, and so many Interceptors dying as well. ZEST looking like he had on a little bit too forward. Those Hydras are starting to kill carriers one after the other. ZEST doesn't really have the economy to pull up with that, but Ragnarok doesn't really have the army to deal with these Kaitos. And look at ZEST go. 3-0 victory.